Welcome to the Stellar Vault. Say hi in the comments to awaken the archive. Then like, subscribe, and let the tale begin.
Galactic year, 51 and 92. Sector Theta 9. Border drift space. The Dominion warship Threnix moved like a blade through the dark, its hull gleaming like polished bone. Ahead, scout drones swept the void, scanning debris fields and gravitational scars, hunting one final ghost. There were no human colonies left in this section. No comms. No answers. And still, the Dominion kept losing ships. Patrols vanished. Stations went dark. Assault wings reported interference, then silence. The High Dominion called it sabotage. A final flicker of resistance. Nothing to worry about. But Admiral Skarn knew better. "There's something out here," he hissed to his second-in-command. "And it's not a fleet. It's a thing. And it's hunting us." He turned to the comm station. "Begin transmission to the last known Terran frequency." Dominion broadcast. Level Omega declaration. 2. Remnants of Earth Command. Subject: final opportunity for surrender. By order of the Galactic Dominion, you are declared in violation of the Accord of Species Continuity. Your kind is obsolete. Your colonies reclaimed. We offer mercy. Respond within 48 cycles. Surrender what remains. Resist, and we will unmake you. 22 cycles later, over Aurelius Prime. The Dominion fleet descended like executioners. No warning, no negotiations, no broadcast. Just presence and then fire. Aurelius Prime had been humanity's crown jewel, a cultural beacon, a hub of trade and science. Over 1 billion citizens lived under its emerald sky. Skarn watched from orbit as kinetic lances tore through relay stations, as defensive satellites shattered like glass. Whole continents lit up in flame, neatly, surgically. No hesitation. No hesitation at all. He stood at the forward viewport, watching the end of a world, and for the first time in decades, he allowed himself a smile. "Extermination," he said. "At last, we begin the end." One last signal escaped the planet's collapsing surface, a child's voice, barely audible through static. "They're here. They're not taking prisoners. Mom said we had to hide to..." Then nothing at Deep Space, Fort Arxum. The bunker was buried inside a chasm beneath a churning red nebula, cloaked from all Dominion sweeps. No signal escaped. No light reached the walls. Only silence. Inside the central war room, 3 men stood around a circular projection table. No one spoke. Above them hovered a live feed. The final images of Aurelius Prime. Before and after. General Rourke Halverson broke the silence. His voice carried no anger, only exhaustion. "They didn't even try to negotiate." "No," said Colonel Vance Keller, leaning forward on the table's edge. "This wasn't conquest. It was a message." "Surrender was never an option," added the third man, older, quieter. "They wanted extinction." Rourke looked up. "Contact the Archangel." Vance blinked. "You're serious?" "He's not a diplomat," said the older man. "Not a fleet either." "No," Rourke said quietly. "He's what they buried when they thought we were done. And now, they just gave him a reason." No vote. No debate. Just the order that would change everything. Elsewhere. Unknown coordinates. The ship did not roar when it moved. It hummed, like a cathedral waking from a dream. Black armor folded against the dark. Pulse drives fired without heat. And at its center, inside a throne of steel and silence, sat Ulysses Grant. His face was weathered leather, beard gray, eyes fixed somewhere far beyond the hull. He didn't ask who called him. He just answered. All echoes. Online. Around him, the Archangel stirred, not with data, but with memory. Not artificial intelligence, not simulation. Echoes. The imprinted minds of fallen pilots, digitized in their final moments and merged with the ship's neural lattice. Illegal under every major treaty. Unstable. Emotional. Too human, that's why it worked. The first to answer was Echo Z01, Nash, weapons officer. Former orbital bomber. Calm, precise, poetic in the middle of a firefight. He'd tallied 32 confirmed Dominion kills before his bomber was hit during final descent over Vega's second moon. Not a scream, just the soft click of a completed targeting sequence as the flames took him. Now, his voice lived on inside the Archangel, steady as ever. "Shall I paint, sir?" he asked. "Or carve?" Echo 04, Hall, followed, once a deep space navigator, now part of the Archangel's routing cortex. "There's drift pulling from the right," he murmured. "That's where they'll come." Echo 07, Grim, barely spoke. His last breath had saved a civilian convoy. His rage never left. 10 seconds in their flank, he said. "That's all I need." Echo 13, Silva, once a galaxy-famous rock star and frontman of the group PsyOps, known more for sold-out concerts than combat. But beneath the lights and noise, he was something rarer. A systems prodigy. Assassinated mid-broadcast, his mind was salvaged and reborn. Now, he doesn't perform. He infiltrates. And from the shadows, he whispers into enemy systems like a ghost, humming through wires. His voice slipped through the Archangel's comm layer, low, smooth, unmistakable. "They're afraid." Nice. Ulysses didn't smile, but the ship did. "Cloak active," said Grim. "Target acquired," said Nash. "Confirming vector. Threnix." From deep within the Archangel's core, systems synchronized. Echoes aligned. Vengeance took shape. Bridge of the Threnix. Near orbit. Sector Theta 9. Alarms flared without warning. "Sir, stealth trace detected. Bearing 060. Wait, it's gone." "Shields dropping!" another officer cried. "External sensors, cutting out!" Then, a symbol appeared on the main display. The old Earth flag. And a moment later, the port side of the Threnix exploded, split open by a tungsten rod accelerated to near light speed. No energy signature, no warning. The bridge vaporized. Skarn never saw it coming. The ship fractured in silence, systems offline, crew lost in seconds. Pure kinetic revenge. Somewhere beyond the blast radius, aboard the Archangel, the command deck glowed with spectral light. "Direct hit," Nash said. "They blinked. Want the others to blink too?" Ulysses stood. His fingers brushed the steel beside his seat, etched with the names of his original crew. "They killed a colony of 1 billion, he said quietly, and called it justice. "Now," he murmured, "they'll call this a mistake." He turned to the forward display. "Hall, prepare next vector. Grim, go dark. Silva, whisper to their fleet." The Archangel vanished again, silent, cloaked, hunting. The Dominion ship Saracel was 40 clicks out from Sector Theta 9 when it happened. "Sir, Dominion distress call detected. Wait, it's merging with our system feed." Every console went white, then filled with foreign symbols, human script. A voice followed. Clear, calm, inevitable. Ulysses Grant. You thought Earth burned, but Earth learned. And now, the fire burns in us. Lights flickered, engines choked, targeting arrays blinked out. The Ceracell drifted, alive, but hollowed. Not by weapons, by memory. In the chaos, one final Dominion ship fled the formation. Ulysses let it go. Not out of mercy, but purpose. One Dominion vessel fled. One drifted, systems hollowed. One, Threnix, was gone. And in the center of it all, the Archangel lingered. Silent. Cold. Watching. Behind its eyes. The ghosts waited. The Dominion fleet moved with silent confidence, its formation stretched like a crucifix across the black. 12 capital ships, 8 destroyers, 1 dreadnought with a command spine longer than a Terran skyscraper. Novastad, neutral by treaty, irrelevant by most. Once a refuge, now a warning. Admiral Kevel, High Warcast of the Dominion, stood tall upon the command deck of the dreadnought Savroth. His twin hearts beat in slow, syncopated calm as he addressed his fleet. The broadcast echoed cleanly across every channel. The failure of the warship Threnix was unfortunate, but it was a tactical anomaly, a relic, a ghost. In 6 cycles, we erase doubt. In 6 cycles, we erase Novastad. The channels crackled with low, disciplined affirmation. No one mentioned the human voice that had burned its way across Dominion comms cycles ago. No one dared to speak the name Ulysses Grant. They believed it. He was a myth, an error, a single glitch in a long war already won. Their arrogance was absolute, and it would cost them. In Fort Arksum, General Rourke Halverson watched the intercepted Dominion communique flicker across a half-shattered console. The room smelled of scorched plastic, ozone, and metal fatigue. His bionic hand twitched faintly as he played the message back one more time. Orbital cleansing to begin in 6 cycles. All life signatures will be cataloged post-mortem. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward and keyed a sequence into a dormant relay, one buried deep in old Terran military archives. Unauthorized, unlogged. A red prompt blinked to life. Contact, Archangel. Last, status, silent. Halverson stretched his shoulders. Route confirmed. Signal away. Then he whispered, more to himself than the console. If you're still out there, we need you. Across the void, in the dark that wrapped the edges of known space, the Archangel stirred. Not awake, not yet, but aware. Its hull flexed with the slow hum of returning power. Its alloy bones, darker than void, shivered with cold potential. At the heart of it sat Ulysses Grant. Not slouched, not commanding, just present, waiting. Then came the voice, clean, smooth, male, but unaged. It had warmth engineered into its symmetry, a voice sculpted to reassure or to chill, depending on the command it carried. Captain, it said, you have returned. I was always here, Ulysses replied, fingers curling around the arm of his command throne. The voice belonged to Orion, the ship's central AI, not just a pilot assist or interface construct. Orion was the ship's mind made manifest. He moved oxygen, calculated hyperspace drift, managed weapon spin-up, and opened the doors between life and death. He was also fond of conversation. Encrypted priority relay received, Orion continued. General Halverson sends his regards. Ulysses didn't move. Connect him. The channel opened instantly. No encryption, no delay. Just a voice carved in exhaustion and steel. I'm here, Halverson said. Ulysses leaned forward, his tone flat. Novastad? They're moving on it, Halverson replied. 6 cycles out. Civilian world. You're outnumbered 20-1. A pause. Then, doesn't change the math. Halverson exhaled. You're going to need more than ghosts. I always do. Then the line went dead. There is a 94% probability of mission failure, Orion said. I've done worse odds. Indeed. Shall I prepare the echoes? Not yet. Just you and me for now. Orion's reply carried a thread of mischief. Romantic. Ulysses didn't reply, focusing his attention to the Dominion data stream across his tactical overlays. Formation grids, signal clusters, deployment patterns. Too clean. Too predictable. Let's say hello. Then, within the Dominion Armada, small errors began to ripple. Sensor arrays blinked out for half-seconds. External readings twitched. Navigation anchors reported false positives, then recorrected. Officers cursed under their breath and blamed magnetic interference. Until the Savroth's command crew lost everything. Their screens went black. Stars disappeared. Orientation dissolved. Someone shouted across the Dreadnought's bridge. We have no positional data. Reboot the external arrays. Another voice, higher, more panicked, followed. We're blind. Nothing on the board. Wait! Something's there. Then, on every screen, a single image flickered into being. A flag. Old Earth. Tattered. Ash-stained. Burning. And then a voice, deep and calm, played across every channel. Your peace was fire. Now you burn with it. Ulysses didn't wait. He reached for the lever beside his seat and pulled. Echoes. Online. The neural lattice of the Archangel shuddered. Lights flared to life, then dimmed to a dull, resonant glow. And one by one, the dead answered. Nash, calm, almost musical in tone. Weapons hot, sir. They brought too many ships. Not enough coffins. Hall, soft and drifting. Their left flank folds in 4 rotations. I see it, Captain. Just wide enough to bleed. Grim, dark laughter behind a scarred whisper. Permission to get creative. And Silva, silken, precise. Already inside their tactical stream, they're confused. I like that. Ulysses nodded once. Orion, lock the Dreadnought. You and I handle it. He turned to the darkness around him. Echoes, make art. The battle didn't start with fire. It started with absence. Dominion ships fired at nothing. Phantom heat signatures blinked on their screens, then vanished. Commanders screamed conflicting orders as their own voice prints looped through open channels, used against them. Above them, the stars shifted. Not physically, but in their navigational software. Hall had rewritten the sky, and the Dominion no longer knew where they were. Then the Archangel opened fire. It didn't hum. It didn't light up like alien ships. It struck with silence. Tungsten rods, dense, silent, invisible, ripped through warship plating at relativistic speeds. Shields collapsed like paper. hulls bent and snapped under pure Newtonian rage. Silva whispered into cooling systems, causing reactors to overheat and detonate internally. Grimm drove the ship like a scalpel in a madman's hand, weaving through capital ships with impossible grace. Orion, linked to the dreadnought systems, reprogrammed half its missile payload to arc back into its own escort lines. When the wreckage cleared, only 4 Dominion ships remained intact enough to flee. The rest were debris. The dreadnought Savroth split along its spine, venting fire and death into the void. And below, Novastad still glowed in peace, unharmed, unaware of what had shielded it from extinction. But victory had its price. The Archangel drifted in silence, its hull scorched. Its systems cracked and bleeding heat. Internally, the conduits that linked the echoes to the ship's mind had been severed. The bridge was dark now, too quiet. Smoke coiled from the ceiling. Sparks danced across the floor plating. Ulysses sat motionless, breathing the stale air. "Orion?" he asked, voice dry. "Core routing matrix is compromised. Echo interface suspended. I remain operational. For now." "How bad?" "You won, Captain. That's how bad." Inside Fort Arxum, within a cold and quiet room, General Halverson watched the raw feed flicker to its end. No celebration, no commentary, just wreckage and starlight. He keyed the private channel. "You alive, old man?" Ulysses's voice came through, hoarse, frayed. "I'm fixing the ship." "Alone?" There was a pause. "Not for long," Ulysses said. Then the line went dead. But victory had its price. Inside the Archangel, alarms blinked in weary rhythm. The ship floated, wounded but alive. Armor plates scorched, power nodes fluctuated, conduits sparked and hissed behind wall panels like wounded nerves. The echoes were gone. Not destroyed, but silenced. Their neural channels, routed through delicate quantum filaments, had overloaded during the final strike. Nash, Hall, Grimm, Silva, gone dark. Not dead, just unreachable. Ulysses stood alone on the command deck, staring out at a wrecked horizon of burning hulls and spinning debris. "Orion," he said finally. "Still operational," the AI responded, tone clipped but functional. "Structural integrity is at 62%. Echo interface is offline. Multiple systems degraded." "Can you fix it?" "Not with what we have. Not here." A long pause. Ulysses's jaw flexed. His fingers brushed the edge of the command chair where the names of his original crew were still etched. Some of them now echoes. Some just names. "Then we need parts." Orion hesitated. "Official channels will not suffice. The technology we need violates 5 interstellar accords." Ulysses didn't blink. "Then we call someone who doesn't care about accords." He moved to the auxiliary console and opened a manual comm line, buried under old protocols and shadow routes. It wasn't official. It wasn't clean. But it would work. A retinal scan. A vocal code. One name. Initiate private signal channel. Kavanov. The system paused, then crackled to life. Coordinates began to filter in, encrypted, ephemeral, dancing like smoke on the screen. Ulysses leaned back. "He talks too much," he muttered, "but he knows where to find the parts." Orion's tone was arch. "And you, of course, are a paragon of brevity." "Wake me when he answers," Ulysses said, closing his eyes. Very well, Orion replied. Researching for contact with smuggler Adric Kavanaugh initiated. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. The Starseeker's cockpit was dim, awash in crimson flicker as hyperspace trails rippled outside. Adric Kavanaugh leaned back, boots on the console, drink in hand, listening to a slow jazz track looping through Leora's audio feed. Then his console beeped. Once, a tight band signal. No header, no signature. Only one person sent signals like that. He didn't hesitate. The screen cracked to life. A static washed image formed. Ulysses Grant, eyes hollow with fatigue, face set like carved granite. You look worse than last time, Adric said, grinning. You won the war without me already? Ulysses didn't smile. Need parts, blackwire tech, quiet delivery. You're still using echo threads? Damn, man. Those things burn hotter than a guilty conscience. They burned out. That's why you called, Adric said, nodding to himself. You lost your ghosts. Ulysses was silent. Adric leaned forward. You get me a list. I'll get you what you need. Don't worry about payment. Ulysses's voice was quiet but firm. Wasn't going to. There's the bastard I know! The screen cut to black. No goodbyes. No confirmations. Just understanding. Ulysses stood from the command throne, bones cracking faintly as he moved. He crossed to the forward terminal and keyed in a series of encrypted files. Schematics, part IDs, neural wetware calibrations. All of it wrapped in dark code, impossible to trace unless you'd flown with the worst of the fringe. He sent the packet. Not 2 minutes later, Orion spoke. Coordinates received. Outer Verge, Driftport. Designation Slag Nest. Lovely name. Ulysses adjusted the collar of his coat. Adric style. You're sure this is wise? Orion asked. Kavanaugh is reliable, but volatile. He's both, Ulysses replied. That's why he is the best. The ship groaned as Ulysses set the new course manually, bypassing navigational AI controls. He preferred it that way when the mission wasn't war, when it was trust. As the Archangel slipped into fold space, Ulysses sat back and closed his eyes for a moment. Not to rest, to remember. He remembered Vega's second moon, where Nash had earned his 32nd kill, and where Ulysses had lost half his crew to a Dominion minefield masked as a distress signal. He remembered the screaming in his comms. Not rage, not defiance, just silence that had come too fast. He remembered Hall's last words before the hull breach sucked him into the stars. He remembered what it cost to bring them back, as echoes, as fragments of men who never got a second chance. Ghosts, loyal not to Earth or orders, but to him. Ulysses opened his eyes. The stars outside were warping as fold space curled them like molten threads. Ahead lay the edge of the galaxy, a junk world turned barter post, and the only man he could trust with fixing a ship powered by vengeance and manned by the dead. Kalor, Outer Rim Dockyard, 4 levels below. Market grid. The Archangel docked with no transponder, no clearance, no warning. And yet, no one questioned it. Even the slavers and ex-mercs working the port cranes instinctively stepped back when the hull doors hissed open and Ulysses Grant walked down the ramp. Long coat, stiff with dust, boots echoing against steel. He didn't scan the crowd. He didn't need to. Adric Kavanaugh leaned against a refueling node, arms crossed, expression somewhere between exasperation and dry amusement. You look like hell, Adric said, tossing a rag over his shoulder. That ship of yours looks worse. Ulysses glanced at him without slowing. Still runs. Barely, Adric muttered. Orion, how are you still sane? The ship's AI chimed in, as dry as ever. Debatable. Barely indeed, came a second voice. Leora, her smooth tone piped through Adric's shoulder rig. Ulysses gave the AI's voice a nod of acknowledgement. Leora, Captain Grant, she purred. Your infamy precedes your hygiene. Adric chuckled, then straightened. Come on, Bay 4's cleared. I told the local pirates it's a plague vessel. You've got 24 hours of peace, maybe 36 if no one gets curious. Ulysses followed. No words of thanks, just motion. Adric, used to the silence, finally broke it as they entered the repair bay. You need spare parts, a full spectral aligner. Hell, I'd bet you cooked half your internal relays. He paused. Let me guess. Dominion tech? Ulysses nodded once. Prototype disruptor, burned through a destroyer line, fried half the Archangel's systems in return. Adric gave a low whistle. You never do things halfway, do you? The silence lingered a moment longer. Then Ulysses finally said, You were the only one who wouldn't ask for credits. Adric pulled a toolkit from the wall and handed it over. After Halor 9, you've got credit for a lifetime. Let me do this. He paused, then added with a crooked grin, But I will ask for a drink after we save our species. They worked in silence after that. Sparks flew from the Archangel's open hull plates. Adric cussed at a jammed coil. Leora mocked both of them equally. Orion kept score. By dawn cycle, the core relays hummed clean again. The disruptor weapon sat dormant, but alive. The Echo interface was quiet, but stable. The ship was ready. Ulysses stepped onto the ramp, coat already half dusted, eyes toward the void. Orion's voice interrupted the quiet. You should see this. A screen flared to life near the entryway. Council footage, Dominion security briefings, edited feeds, all perfectly timed. A burning refugee station, screams, collapsing domes, alien families, fires. Then came the branding. Terran signature detected. Human terrorists confirmed. Casus belli validated by Council charter. Ulysses didn't flinch, but his fists curled at his sides. They staged it, he said. Orion responded softly. The galaxy believes it. How bad? Ulysses asked. The Galactic Council turned a blind eye to everything the Dominion did to us. And now, they've approved full military action against Terran colonies. No diplomacy, no oversight, just fire. Ulysses looked up at the dark beyond the dock. Then we're too late for words. He turned to Adric, who was watching from the bay door, eyes dark. Give my thanks to the girl, Ulysses said, and stay out of the next one. You're gonna need something that bites, he muttered, cracking the seals. Adric wiped his hands on a torn cloth and popped the latch on a storage locker welded into the bulkhead. He didn't say anything at first, just pulled out a long, narrow case and dropped it onto the workbench with a thud. Inside lay a compact, brutal-looking firearm. Not standard issue, not clean. The plating was mismatched. The grip was worn smooth by time, not polish. But it was balanced. Deadly. Adric ran a hand across it. Won it in a card game. Guy I took it off swore it was one of a kind. Said it jammed when you looked at it wrong, and killed clean when you didn't. He ran his hand down its side carefully, like petting a caged animal. First time I tested it proper, I blew up a bar. Whole place gone. 4 pirates, 2 crew, vaporized. Second time, the space around the blast just folded, twisted up like wet paper. No heat, no debris, just gone. He tapped the casing with a knuckle. It's unstable, might kill you, might make you disappear without a trace, but if it fires, he shrugged. Well, you probably won't need to fire twice. He nudged it forward on the crate. Ulysses didn't say a word. He picked it up, checked the weight. The weapon hummed, not mechanically, not like a power cell. It felt more like it was watching. Adric leaned back, arms folded. Good luck. Just don't shoot it near anything I'm still using. He tossed Ulysses a mock salute. Ulysses stepped aboard. The Archangel rose into the dark, engines rumbling like thunder in a tomb. The Dominion came like fire through dry bone. 3 colonies lit up within the hour. Not scattered strikes, not rage-fueled punishment, but coordinated precision. They wanted collapse, a break in the line, a white flag. What they got was Halverson. He didn't speak when the reports flooded in. Just stood there in the dim CIC, jaw tight, eyes unmoving. The hologrid sputtered under the strain of old code, flaring red with each new strike vector. 3 systems: Alcaeus, Meridian Reach, and Farspur Belt. Population: over 2 million civilians. Defense assets: thin. Ulysses remained silent after their last contact, buried in the Archangel's bones, welding her back together. So command fell to General Rourke Halverson, and he took it without ceremony. Scramble fleet remnants Theta and Rook to Meridian. Use old burn signatures from the Palisade drills. Make them look bigger than they are. Send derelict wreckage ahead of them. I want the Dominion thinking we've got battle groups coming out of dry dock. His staff blinked, then moved. Alcaeus was already lost by the time the first dropships burned through its sky. Meridian was next. The Dominion wanted a cascade, victory through momentum. But Halverson had studied their playbook. He didn't meet them where they expected. He bled for every inch away from the obvious. In the shadow of Cassandra's twin moons, he assembled an ambush. 8 cruisers, 3 of them barely patched from the last encounter. Fighters fueled with siphoned scav fuel, not enough firepower to stop a proper Dominion pincer. But Halverson didn't plan to stop them. He planned to break them. He used grav-lensing fields to falsify mass readings, made ice clusters look like armored frigates, broadcast false distress signals from outdated Terran satellites to draw scouts into predictable arcs. Even had one crew ignite their own reactor, faking a breach to bait a Dominion sensor sweep. They took the bait. All of it. When the Dominion cruisers swept through the Meridian Belt, they walked into an old Terran vice. 2 attack lines swung wide, herding them toward a dead cluster of asteroids, where Halverson's ships waited with cold weapons and silent hulls. The trap closed in 15 seconds. Fire only when you see their engines flare, Halverson had said. Make the first salvo count. No speeches, no signals. And they obeyed. The Dominion's lead ship died before its captain knew he was in combat. The second rammed into debris trying to maneuver, venting pressure and command staff into the void. But it wasn't clean. It never was. Half of Halverson's ships took crippling hits. Rook 2 lost all power and had to be scuttled. The Lancelot, Halverson's own command carrier, took a rail spike through the dorsal plates, nearly shearing the CIC. He stayed at his station. Blood ran down his temple from a bulkhead impact. He didn't wipe it away, just gripped the rails, barking corrections, counting missile trails with his own eyes when the sensors stuttered. Just a man at war. It took 23 minutes, When it was over, 9 Dominion ships burned in silence. The others scattered. The colony didn't fall. Not from miracle. Not from hope. Because Halverson refused to yield. The aftermath was quiet. Fires, body counts, transmissions home. One of the young officers, barely 20, still calling him sir like a nervous habit, stood beside the general as the sun rose behind the scorched planet. "Permission to ask a question, General." Halverson didn't look up. "Granted." "Do you think Ulysses would have done it differently?" The old warrior exhaled. Slow, gravel thick. He watched the wreckage drift in the upper stratosphere. Shrapnel glinted in the sunlight like dying stars. He would have won it faster, cleaner, with fewer dead. The young officer nodded once, then hesitated, like there was more, but didn't know how to ask it. "But the line would still have held," Halverson added, turning his gaze down to the scorched terrain below. Silence, the kind only earned after survival. Then the comms buzzed, crackling through static. It was Orion. Transmission relays back online. Priority message from the Archangel. Halverson's eyes flicked toward the comm post. Not surprised, not eager. "Read it. Repairs complete. Engines stable. Ulysses en route to Rally Point Delta." That was all. No flourish. No request for update. No sign of the man who nearly bled out in the Archangel's hull last chapter. Just movement. Purpose. The shadow returning. The officer looked toward Halverson. "He's coming back." Halverson nodded. We didn't wait for him. A long moment passed. Then Halverson limped away. Not toward the command deck. Not toward the medical bay. He walked to the wreck of the Lancelot, his flagship. Inside, engineers were trying to keep her alive. Sparks still fell from severed conduits. The air stank of coolant and old blood. Halverson stepped over a dead crewman and took the captain's chair with a grunt. He didn't sit like a man seeking comfort. He sat like a hammer placed back on its anvil. The days that followed were filled with smoke and signal. Across the reach, evacuation orders poured in. Not in panic, but purpose. Halverson's fleets moved like bones knitting back together. He consolidated what ships he could, dug up old orbital arrays, and pushed engineers to break salvage into firepower. There was no illusion of victory, just delay, long enough to dig in, long enough to hit back. The Dominion didn't rest either. Probes flickered on fringe systems. Comms went dark on the Nylos relay. Civilian merchant routes were cut. When they came again, it wouldn't be with strikes. It would be with a fleet, the last one. On the Archangel's upper gantries, Ulysses stood watching the fleet manifest list scroll across Orion's terminal. No helmet, no armor yet, just eyes. Set like stone. Behind him, Halverson's voice echoed through the hangar, commanding loadouts, shifting escorts, finalizing fallbacks for every system east of the Bastion line. He was everywhere, directing a symphony of attrition. Ulysses didn't interrupt. He listened. When Halverson finally turned, they locked eyes. No salute, no warmth, just recognition. "You'll follow the plan?" Halverson asked. Ulysses nodded once. To the letter. Halverson studied him a moment longer, but not with the others. No. A pause. No judgment in it. "You'll hit their flank?" Halverson said, low. Ulysses shrugged. "I'll hit where they think they're safe." No more was said. Halverson turned back to his men. Ulysses walked toward the loading bay, toward the fighter cradle. toward his own dark craft, sealed like a coffin in Launch Dock 3. He wasn't a commander. He wasn't a symbol. He was the ace the Dominion never saw coming. And the game was about to change. The Dominion called it Operation Righteous Ash, a three-front incursion launched at peak orbital convergence. Their fleet crests moved like teeth, burning hard across the black, synchronized by cold mathematics and boundless confidence. They didn't come to fight. They came to crush, to make the Terran frontier fold under the weight of inevitability. Alton's Reach fell first. A single strike cruiser burned through its orbital ring, trailed by drones and atomics. It tore the colony's comm towers apart in seconds. Ground teams dropped in full exo, ready for a harvest of screams. They found silence. No civilians. No resistors. Just silent buildings and barren loading bays. Their commander walked through an empty square, boots echoing off steel and wind. The kill order he'd memorized was useless here. His voice, when he called back to command, carried a crack. "There's no one here." By then, the second front was already engaged. Halverson had emptied the colonies 2 weeks prior, personally approved every evac manifest, risked early detection, bled fuel reserves dry, lost 5 transports to jump instability. But it worked. What the Dominion found wasn't weakness. It was absence. A battlefield without civilians. A trap with no bait. And that enraged them. Halverson stood aboard the Lancelot arms, braced behind his back, as the second wave hit the bastion line. His command staff moved like ghosts. Flashing eyes, low speech, constant coordination. "Flank 9 folding," a tech called. "Rook formations holding. Burn pattern from Sector 7 holding steady." Another voice, closer. "We've lost 34 hulls." "Expected," Halverson muttered. "We trade structure, not blood." The screens before him flickered with burning ships, his and theirs. But never one wasted. He'd seeded the entire zone with false signals, echo shells, cold fire arrays that only activated when Dominion heat signatures overlapped with pre-laid debris fields. Old tricks, expensive ones, but they played the song perfectly. "Pull Rook 3 behind the gas swell," Halverson ordered. "When they move in to finish, collapse the belt." A second passed. Then, "Yes, sir." The Dominion bore down harder, mistaking tactical withdrawal for exhaustion. They didn't realize Halverson was drawing them forward, past the range of their orbital overwatch, past their own timing window, past safety. They thought they were winning. That was the point. Somewhere, deep in the Dominion formation, a battleship flickered. Just a blink. Power surge. Then silence. Its lights died. Comms flatlined. Then, without warning, it detonated from the inside. A silent bloom of lightless flame that tore through its midsection and sent its bow tumbling through the formation like a blade. No weapon trail. No origin ping. Just a kill. Halverson didn't blink. "Confirm." The tactical officer checked twice. "Confirmed, sir. It wasn't us." Halverson stretched his shoulders. "It's him." The Dominion tried to triangulate. They swept sensor cones across the debris fields, looking for a launch trail. Nothing. Then another ship went dark. Then a third. By the time the fourth burst apart mid-maneuver, they understood. Something was among them, inside their formation, beneath their systems, and they'd never seen it coming. Archangel. No transponder. No visible burn trail. It moved like a shadow across the void, a relic wrapped in death, unseen by the Dominion's finest code. Within its black spine, The echoes whispered to life. Echo 1. Took them long enough to miss us. Echo 3. I missed this. The drift. The bleed. Echo 5. Still doesn't feel like revenge. Feels like work. Echo 7. Same thing. Orion's voice cut through the chatter. Targets locked. Rear echelon vulnerable. Recommend full incision. The lights along the hull shifted. Quiet, surgical, coordinated by minds that no longer aged. And in the center of it all, Ulysses Grant sat motionless. Eyes forward, face unreadable. No speech, no war cry. He simply pointed. The Archangel opened fire. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud. It was precise. Rail fire through command spires, pulse disruption blasts into shield cyclers, cold lance beams into the weak spots Dominion engineers had started to believe no one remembered. Each shot ended a piece of their structure. Each kill made the next inevitable. The Dominion's formation collapsed inward, ships crowding, stepping over one another, trying to bring their heavy guns around fast enough. But Ulysses didn't engage them head-on. He passed through them. The Archangel broke ranks like a razor slipped under skin. Back on the Lancelot, Halverson watched it unfold in cold silence. He's in the center of their line, an officer whispered. He won't stay there long, Halverson said. Then, a ripple across the tactical map. The Dominion command ship, their central node, began moving away from the fight. Not tactically, not in a controlled arc. It was retreating. In that ship's dim command deck, a Dominion overseer leaned toward the hologrid. His mandibles clicked. It's him. Who? His second asked. The Archangel, the Echoes, the one they said was dead. No one responded. He turned to his officers. Burn everything in his path. Everything. But by then, it was already too late. The Archangel didn't meet their fire. It passed through it. While Dominion vessels reoriented, trying to paint firing solutions, the Archangel vanished into the folds of their formation. Ghost stealth and gravitic masking, turning their own heat signatures into blind spots. One by one, their command ships ruptured. Not from missiles, not from beam fire, from inside. Echo 3 breached through auxiliary decks, plasma cutting their bridge bulkheads like paper. Echo 5 rerouted venting systems, turning atmosphere floods into ignition traps. Echo 7 locked them in their own targeting loops, forced to watch themselves burn. And Ulysses? He walked the spine of the Archangel in silence, coat streaked with carbon. That ugly, brutal weapon Adric had given him cradled in both hands. No standard grip, no safety, just a trigger, a whisper, and the hum of barely controlled annihilation. He fired once, just once, and the Dominion's flagship, the one that gave the order to burn everything, folded in on itself, space bending like crushed glass, light vanishing in a ring of distortion. No explosion, no debris, only absence. By the time the fleet's outer cordon collapsed, there was nothing left to rally to. No signal, no command. Only wreckage, only silence, only the Archangel. They met in orbit above the ash line, a gleaming council station, all silver arches and soft lights, floated in perfect symmetry around the carcass of a burned world. Polished, pristine, clean. It had never known war. Only votes, only protocol. Inside its grand chamber, the summit circle, 100 voices whispered in 40 languages. Power cloaked in civility. Eyes darted. Faces remained neutral. The war was over, and Earth was back at the table. Seated alone at the crescent of his delegation bench, Chancellor Charles Longhorn leaned back in his chair, fingers laced across his gut like a man watching a funeral parade with no intention of mourning. He wore no medals, just the dull navy suit of the Terran Civil Authority. His eyes were sharp, tired, dangerous. One of the council speakers, a thin, translucent diplomat from the Vari Accord, finished her long-winded praise for Terran resilience and the unexpected brilliance of Admiral Halverson's defensive restructuring. She smiled like a creature unfamiliar with real fear. Then came the pivot. As a gesture of peace, and in accordance with long-standing council treaties, she said, we look forward to Earth's renewed participation in the Mutual Technological Sharing Accord, especially in regard to novel battlefield integrations. It was veiled, barely. All eyes turned to Longhorn. He didn't move right away, just looked down at his glass of still water, then up, calm, measured. Earth accepts reintegration, he said, voice clear, weathered by years and smoke. We'll take our seat. We'll pay our dues. We'll even show up for the boring parts. A polite chuckle from somewhere. Nervous. But, Longhorn said, drawing out the word like a blade from a sheath, any technology developed by Terran hands before today belongs to Terran hands alone. The chamber stiffened. That's not, someone began. A Marneth representative with 3 mouths and no tact. It is, Longhorn cut in, eyes locked like targeting lasers. Your treaties don't cover survival. They don't cover losing 10 billion in a war no one helped us fight. No one spoke. He leaned forward now. Subtle. Inevitable. You want to trade? Trade. You want to debate ethics? Fine. But Earth bleeds alone. It builds alone. And it keeps what it earns. A pause. Sharp. Unbroken. Then a voice from the edge of the circle, a younger diplomat, freshly appointed from a lesser system, said what the others had been dancing around. And the echoes, Ulysses Grant, the Archangel. He meant to sound neutral. Instead, it came out like a prayer. Longhorn blinked once, smiled, thin, dangerous. I don't believe in ghosts, he said. Neither should you. Silence swallowed the chamber whole. Far from the polished lies of diplomacy, the Archangel floated in the outer rim. Its hull had been reforged. Its scars ran deep, but functional. It bore no insignia now, no banner, no allegiance. Just a name. And inside it, silence. In the central command spire, Ulysses Grant stood with his hands folded behind his back, helmet off, watching the swirl of dark space beyond the glass. His face held no triumph, just weight. Halverson's voice crackled over the comms. One last encrypted band, clean and clear. You sure about this? Ulysses didn't respond right away. Then, this war's done. Doesn't mean there won't be another. A pause. Just hope I'm not around when it comes, Halverson said, dry as gravel. If I am, I'll save a place for you. Ulysses nodded, once, as if Halverson could see it. The comm cut. Behind him, the echoes stirred to life. No deployment orders, no target locks, just presence. Echo 3 feels quiet, like the space before a drop. Echo 7, we're not dropping anywhere. Echo 1, don't have to. Let them forget we exist. Let them lie to themselves. Ulysses turned his head slightly. Let them believe in peace. Orion chimed in. No sarcasm this time, just clarity. All systems green. Trajectory mapped. Slipstream window ready in 5. The ship began to hum, that low thrum, like something ancient stretching its bones. Ulysses simply walked, into the shadows of the bridge, toward the place where men like him don't rest. Behind him, the echoes went quiet. The Archangel vanished into dark space. No flare, no signature, just a ripple where something once was. And somewhere beyond mapped space, a Dominion distress signal flickered, then went silent. No trace, no wreckage, just a gap in the stars. And a name the galaxy had tried to forget. Archangel.